Hello everyone, this is a quick walkthrough of Modular Resume, which is my template resume building site that I've put together over the last month. So let's just jump right into it here by clicking on Create New Resume. And by the way, you can find this at modularresume.com. So if we click on Create New Resume, we are shown the resume template on the right, and we have kind of a builder column on the left. And just briefly here, I'm going to show that we can name our resume in this little spot here. I'll hit enter, we'll hit home here, and you can see that now we can revisit this resume in the future. So for right now, we'll just click on continue last resume right here. So the general flow of this is that if you just want to go ahead and fill in these sections, it's quite easy. You just click somewhere where there's a highlighted blue kind of background to it, and that means that it is a text field or also sometimes a drop-down field like for the months. But I'm just going to start filling this out as we talk about it. So I put in my name, and if you notice the links here, these are also highlighted, so we'll click on those. I'm going to enter in a link name, so I'm just going to call it portfolio. I'll hit enter again, and I'll go ahead and enter in another website here. And since I've hit enter again, we now have our portfolio link. So this will actually take us to the URL that I specified here when it's a PDF. But if we click on it here again, it just opens up the editing window, of course. Let's say you only have one link that you want to share. You can turn off one of those by clicking on this. And let me go ahead and open up the icon legend here while we're talking through this, because this will also have a lot of the information that I'm going to cover here. So let's go ahead and I want to cover just something very briefly that's important, and that is the drop down here. So this drop down caret is for showing us what sections that we've made, which right now we don't have any experience sections that I've made, so we just have the default here. But if I click over on info, you'll see that we actually have the one that I just edited there with my name, and I have the portfolio there. So if I were to go through and actually start filling this out more, like this. And then I open up again, go over to info, then you can see that we actually have that information there. And if I click on this, then it actually adds it to wherever we were just clicking the drop down. So you can also click on it. We're currently on the add mode. If I were to click on replace, then instead of adding this, it would replace whatever section we were currently on with this one. So I'm not going to do that though. Let's maybe go through each one of these here. I'm going to go ahead and hit this X button right here, which of course is just the remove section, so that I'll get rid of it here. The duplicate section is it's for duplicating a section's type, but not its content. So we can see that very easily by clicking it up here. It will give us the type of an info section, but it will not duplicate the content. So probably not super useful for something like a header, unless I suppose you wanted it on multiple pages. But for something like bullet points, if you want a bunch more bullet points, then it's maybe pretty useful for something like that, just to quickly get them exactly where you want them. I'm going to remove those though. Right here, let's go to the next little icon here. That's just for turning on and off your icons. If you don't like icons on your resume, you can turn them on and off with this. I'll leave them on though. The professional title is something you can also turn on and off. So maybe you're new to the workforce, you can turn that off. I'll leave it on though. And the underline is also something you can toggle. So we can turn that off for anything that has an underline, which is basically the headers and the info sections here. Now let's go ahead and look at, we looked at the links. Remember, that just turns those on and off. Let's go to the label. So that label for skills right here. So what this does is it turns on and off a category for your skills. So maybe you have categorized skills, maybe you have programming languages, and let's go ahead and duplicate this. And maybe you also have soft skills. I don't know if you'd actually label it like this, but just as an example. And then here, we can maybe type in TypeScript, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. We'll hit enter. And then any one of these is something that you can move, because notice it has that blue outline around it. And because I separated them with commas, they are recognized as part of a list. So we can actually just move these around, which is helpful. Okay, so maybe really the use case for that is maybe you later on learn something else, you type it in, and you can quickly move it to the front if it's more important for the specific job that you're applying to. It's more of a nice to have. Obviously, you can just, you know, delete and then retype as well, but I figured moving stuff around is nice too. And of course, if you want a more general list, if you just want to list all of your skills out without having them categorized, you would turn off the label and you would just start typing in your extra skills this way. Right? This is not only used for skills, you can use this list for anything you want. So maybe for listing certifications, or you could even use bullet points for certifications. So there's not currently a certification header, but we could quickly duplicate one either by clicking this, right? And then we could drag this down and maybe write certifications like this. Or we could also, let's go ahead and exit out of this one. We could also click on this drop down. We could navigate over to headers, and then we can either click our previously made one there since we just made one, or if we hadn't made one yet, we could click on this one and that would also add one exactly where we are. The other way to do this is to go over to add section, which instead of adding this at a specific point, it adds it at the very end of your resume, which is of course fine because you could just move this around wherever you wanted to. And then that way we would also have yet another way to write more headers there. So that covers most of our icon legends there, I think. We'll come back to that in a second probably though. So let's go over some of the other features here. We have zoom, right? So self-explanatory, I think. We have font. So you can change the font to mostly sans fonts, sans serif, but there is one serif font here. I figured I would include it, even though really for applicant tracking systems, you should probably use the sans serif fonts. But maybe if you're bringing it in by hand and you just like the serif font, you can use it. And from what I understand, Merriweather is actually pretty friendly to most applicant tracking systems, so it's probably not a bad serif font to use. But if you want to be extra safe, I would choose one of the sans fonts, like Noto Sans or something like that. One of these that's very easily read by ATS systems. So margin overlay is a way to get even more of a visual on all the margins on the pages. So let me show you why I put this in here. If we duplicate a few sections here and then I hit view PDF, what you'll notice is we have this very ugly kind of cutoff between some of the sections here. And at the very top, we have a great margin. So the way that I got around this at least is I included something called a divider section. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit our drop down button here. And let's go ahead and turn off those margin overlays for a second while I do this, because those are gonna get in the way, I think. So we'll do this and divider. So let's just click on this to add it. We'll click out. And now what we want to do is we want to match this up with our overlay. And what this is doing is it's just creating space. And this overlay is just a guide of where the margin should be, basically. So we could even probably move this one, and we probably should actually. So let's do that. Let's move this down here. And now we have a nice margin. So what will this look like now? Let's take a look. There, so now we have nice spacing. So if we had more projects down here, then it would be nicely spaced. Or maybe you would even want to put the spacer starting here so you could get projects starting on your second page. Okay, so visible dividers, you'll notice that even when they were visible, they do not show up on the PDF, so you don't need to turn those off, but they are a little bit ugly, so you can turn these off. Maybe you're just trying to get a sense of what your resume will look like, and same for the margin overlay. You'll notice that you can still see the overlay right here on the side, but it's a little bit easier to link up or match up the divider with the overlay when the overlay is actually over the resume, if that makes sense. Okay, let's talk about bullet points here. So if I type in a few bullet points here, we'll do ABC, DEF, oops, PHI. And let's do a drop down. You'll notice that each of those is now available to us, and it's available to add, and it's available to use in other resumes as well. And just to show what that will look like, I'm going to hit a drop down here. I'm going to click on ABC, and I'm going to click on ABC and edit it, and we'll change it to XYZ. I'll hit enter, and you'll notice that the ABC up here also changed to XYZ. So if you can imagine, if you have several resumes and you've discovered a better wording for one of your bullet points, and you still have several resumes, maybe one for front-end software development, maybe one for back-end, or whatever profession that you're in, if you find a better wording for one of your bullet points, this will actually cascade through all of your different resumes. To make a copy of a resume, you go back to home, you click on this little duplicate button here, and you get a copy of the resume here. You can actually duplicate these multiple times, and so it doesn't keep on saying copy of copy of copy. I just had it default to, if it already has the name copy, it'll actually just default to saying the copy of the resume created on the time that it was created at. But let's go ahead and delete that one now. We'll look at this one copy here. And as you notice, it's exactly the same as our previous one. So what actually changes here when we add stuff? On this one, we can add stuff, and that added stuff and also the layout changes will not be there. So to easily show this, I'm just going to do something silly and bring our header all the way down here. So notice we have 3 extra bullet points and we have our header in a silly spot. Let's go to our original. There are no 3 bullet points and the header is at the top. So the layout changes that you do between different resumes will not reflect between different resumes. But the content updates, if you do something like change any of the shared data, like for example your bullet point of XYZ, if you change this to 1, 2, 3, let's go back, this will change. So anything that is shared between them will change. So maybe you change your professional title, and maybe you do front-end software dev, and we go back to our original, you'll see that that also changes. So just to show that your information between the 2 resumes will reflect in both, but the layout changes will not reflect in both. Let's go ahead and just quickly go through and maybe go through the summary here. Summaries respect your layout basically. So if you do something like this, an indent, then that will show. If you hit enter a few times and say, this is an indent, we'll do shift enter by the way, and that will show us that the layout respects what we just did and the text input there. I think we talked about, did we talk about months? Maybe not. Well, this is a drop down. So if you click on months, you'll see that we have a drop down here. Your years are text inputs. If you choose current, oops, come back. If we choose current, then it will get rid of the year because current is current. There's no need for a year there. But if you change it back to a month, then you'll get access to your year again. Another thing on the drop downs, by the way, is let's say that you have a few people or a few bullet points or whatever it is. So we'll do Bob. He will be a software dev as well. And we'll do Mr. Whiskers, the cat. Let's go and do a drop down here and let's filter by keyword. So you notice we have our 3 options that we could add right now, but let's say that we have a bunch more, especially for stuff like bullet points, right? We can actually type in a search term here. So front end now shows us only our front end. I could also search by name like Bob. So now we only have Bob down there. We could search by cat, right? The profession there. So basically anything in here. Let's do, he's in Anchorage. I'm in Anchorage. Bob is in LA. You can search by, well, I guess cat, right? So CA, let's do LA then. Oh, there we go. So yeah, just a text matcher, basically. It's going to find whatever has that text in it in those fields and it'll show up. So if you're making a resume again and you want to quickly find a bullet point, say maybe you have a bunch of bullet points or something, then you can do that. I think that covers most of it. I'm probably missing something, but anyway, I'm still working on the help section. I know there's probably a lot to talk about here, but for the most part, that covers the core features here. And when you are ready, you click on View PDF, and that gives you access to your PDF. It looks like I screwed up our margin there. Needs to come back down. That's basically it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And by the way, when you clear your browser cache, this will go away. This is just stored on indexed database, which is basically like local storage on your browser. So if you clear your browser history, your indexed database history on your browser, this will disappear. Just a heads up. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you like it.